vampire movies that are PG-13, I don't know. If you're trying to make a scary vampire movie, in my opinion, you gotta make it rated R. Let's talk about The Invitation. What up? Bobo here, guys. Thanks for coming back with some more popcorns. So Andrew and I went and saw The Invitation last night. Not to be confused with The Invitation that came out in 2015, which that's a totally different premise. Yeah, there are other people in the movie, but those are the main two people that it focuses on. First off, let me just say, I had a good time with this movie. It wasn't bad by any means. It was well made. There were lots of scary, tense moments in throughout, but I do have to say, when you're making a movie about vampires and you want it to be scary, I just feel like it needs to be R. You need to go that one extra step to make it a little more brutal. And this was PG-13, and I remember watching it halfway through with Andrew and I just being like, you know what, if I didn't realize this, but I think this might be PG-13. But that didn't make it a bad movie because it was a good movie and I really liked the premise a lot. I have two complaints about this movie. Again, not saying it was a bad movie. And look, when I give a movie like a C or a C- even, that doesn't mean that it's a bad movie. That just means it's kind of on the average level. The D and the F territory is where you get into bad movies. I'm just telling you my grading system. It's directed by Jessica M. Thompson, starring Nathalie Emmanuel and Thomas Doherty. Anyways, The Invitation. The premise you've seen in the trailers, I'm sure. It's about this girl who lives in New York, and then all of a sudden she gets contacted by this long-lost cousin from overseas, like in Europe somewhere, Britain. So one way or the other, he convinces her to actually come visit because there's this wedding happening and all these things, and he's like, oh, the family would love to meet you. That was a terrible British accent. Nobody hate me for that. So she goes over there and she's all like enamored with this sort of like royal lifestyle. And slowly but surely you as an audience member start to see some creepy things going on. She slowly starts to see some creepy things going on too, but some of the way through you can tell that they were just trying to give you, the audience member, creepy moments so they could keep you invested. Because some of the part of the way it kind of feels like a love story. But later on you kind of find out why it's like this. Because pretty soon she finds out, and this isn't spoiling anything, this is in the trailer, that it's like a house full of vampires and they drink blood and stuff like that. So that's not spoiling anything, I promise. You see that in the trailer. But in a weird way, this movie, I felt like was slightly inspired by Resident Evil some of the time. Like if you're a big Resident Evil fan of like the whole franchise, which I am, I played it since day one, I'm talking about the games. They really took a lot of elements specifically out of Resident Evil 8, the most recent one, Village. But if you're not a fan of the Resident Evil games, you might not catch some of this stuff. But the house that she goes to is just like the house in Resident Evil 8. And they even have this big woman that's very like similar to the woman, I think it's Lady Damascus or Damascus or something like that, in Resident Evil 8. So for me, I was having fun with that. I like that. I was getting sort of like these creepy supernatural Resident Evil vibes. But right off, one of the things I was really enjoying was the fact that they weren't treating these vampires like teeny boppers or ravers. This was like the old school gothic form of vampires that I'm used to growing up with, the scary lore of vampires. So they do try to keep with that. But I can't help but feel the entire time I'm watching that it is PG-13. There's a ton of off-screen kills. There's no bad language. Anytime they're about to be like slightly seductive or anything like that, they never really show anything. But all the while, this is all just sort of littered here and there throughout the buildup of the character development of her going overseas to this new family. And she's getting to know the lord of the house, who's the other character played by Thomas Doherty. And it's really just this love story that ensues. But this is where I'm gonna spoil it right here because I gotta talk about this because this is what I really liked about the movie. So spoiler alert right here, but that's part of the review. I've always told Andrew that it'd be really cool to make or watch a movie about like some dude that's helping these people out of a situation and he keeps on upping his game at what he can do and he keeps on helping them and he's like this older guy kind of and these people don't really know who he is, you don't know who he is, and then all of a sudden at the very end something comes up in the third act to where he has to like really show his true power and all of a sudden these bone claws come out of him, you know, and then you realize, oh, I've been watching a Wolverine movie. Like that would be awesome, right? So in this movie, that's how it is. At some point, you start realizing, oh man, I'm watching a Dracula movie because they use the same names all from the Dracula story. You find out that this guy, Thomas Doherty, the whole like love relationship that's building between him and her, he's Dracula. He's got these two other wives. Anyways, he's trying to recruit her as a wife and it really dives really deep into the Dracula lore. And it's basically, hey, what if Dracula was like this? It's a revisionist approach to Dracula, but it's not calling it Dracula. So I thought that was really cool, but they do so much to where they use all these character names from the Dracula story, like Harkin, Mina, Lucy. He even refers to the way he's been referred to in the past as Nosferatu and all that stuff. So it's just Dracula revamped. Hey. Oh, nailed it. Oh yeah, and the butler in this, his name is Renfield. I mean, so it's clearly a Dracula reboot, reimagining. So all that actually really worked for me. I was kind of just like, oh, Andrew, we're watching a Dracula movie. And to be fair, Andrew was sort of kind of calling that out in the beginning. He was like, that's the same name that was in the Dracula movies. So credit to my boy. But really the only thing that kind of just let me down about this movie, just slightly, was that it was PG-13 and you could feel it. They didn't really dive into the brutality that I wanted to see from this vampire culture, this vampire family. And for my taste, the third act was just really fast and just a little anticlimactic. It really didn't ruin the movie by any means for me because I still thought it was a very original approach and an awesome concept, and I did enjoy it. And Thomas Doherty and Nathalie Emmanuel are both great in it. I just wanted more brutality and I wanted a little bit more of an epic ending. So The Invitation, I give it a B-. I definitely recommend going to see it, especially if you're a horror fan. It'll get you a little revved up for the Halloween season coming up, which, ooh, I can't wait for that. Well, that'll do it for this review, guys. Thank you so much for clicking on this video. Hit that like button if you enjoyed it. And if you haven't done so already, hit that subscribe button so you can help us make it to the top. And as always, if life gives you lemons, make some hot, fresh popcorns.